And let's get straight to it. Welcome to everybody who's joining us this morning around the table. And firstly, yeah, I think the intention is to have a session where everybody takes part. So that's really important for us. We're not going to keep you busy too long this morning. In the South African context, we've got a short week. Probably yesterday, so it's a bit in the South African front. And internationally, things are happening. So it's a busy Friday all over the place. So we've had a couple of people not joining us this morning, but they will watch the session online. They will watch the session online as we post it. So just a couple of introductions. My name is Steve Golding. We will be various hosts for this podcast over the next couple of weeks, and our moderator this morning is Lisa Hesse. So Lisa will watch for questions and chat to me if there are any requests or issues or anything in the chat box that I should take note of. We've got listeners from all over the globe this morning. So from New Zealand and various other places. So welcome everyone to the chat. Our studio audience this morning and our Q&A session is with Gerard Ulofse and John Schaefer. We will obviously be engaging with many people during these sessions. So feel free to drop us a note if you have anything specific that you'd like to discuss, or if you need anything specific addressed in the session. So we're going to be following these parts sort of as a general rule, but sometimes we'll veer off the path depending on what we discover and what the questions lead us to identify. So right, so from last week's podcast, I think what really came out in terms of expectations is a broad aspect of what's hot in project management specifically, but also advancing into how business operations are actually being influenced by new trends like AI, specifically, and what we call behavior modification. So how do we actually use technology to form and shape a business into a specific environment where we're achieving 10x improvements in data management, in behavior, in the way we do workflow, and the way we connect across the organization. So these are very important hot topics that we will be addressing. And then we definitely have some questions around what we call PM hardcore, the real questions around project management and documentation, and asking some really hard-hitting questions around how do we actually get this running? Because organizations tend to have a lot of systems, paid a lot of money in terms of addressing these issues, but they still don't achieve what they need to achieve. So we're going to be unpacking that one specifically around how an implementation works this morning, and addressing that. If you are on KEY360, please feel free to drop us a review. We've had some really great feedback, so Diesel will post the review link in the chat box. So please hop on there while we're busy and give us a review. We'd appreciate that. All right, new trends. Let's talk about a couple of things. So this morning we're going to stop in a brand new area. We're very close to the launch of the KEY360 game. We're just crunching some more data in terms of users being able to encrypt their currency just by using KEY360. This has been long coming, and we're very excited about launching this. and it's long overdue because we've been collecting data around the use of Key360 for the past 11 years. So, so effectively how it works is every transaction that you do on the platform gets converted through an algorithm into cryptocurrency, and it really depends on what units you're busy with, what type of transactions you're busy with, as to how that translates into earning cryptocurrency, which in the Key360 sense is called a key coin. All right, so I'm going to jump out of this presentation and just jump into the Key360 share. Right, so every single user has a game board, and that game board allows them access to earning cryptocurrency through Key360. And hopefully by the end of the year, you will be able to trade that cryptocurrency that you have earned in Key360 on a public domain. Just scrolling through, this is a very exciting transition for us in terms of using the technology and the effort-based input from every single user in Key360 to actually create a vibrant cryptocurrency capability. We've got upwards of 20,000 users on Key360, so everybody who touches Key360 in any sort of way will be earning cryptocurrency and will be able to trade that cryptocurrency going forward. Now, this is a temporary screen, so don't look at the data too much. But effectively, you've got different areas. You will have a weekly target to earn those cryptocurrencies. You will be able to track your progress and your earnings. You will be able to work in teams and rank against other team members, and then also earn a specific position on the game board in terms of how much you engage in Key360 and how many modules you're working on inside the platform. So we've got 10 levels of game engagement, and typically each of those levels multiplies your earnings by about 10%. Now, apart from the gamification aspect of this, what's really important about using cryptocurrency in this fashion is creating an effort-based commodity and exchange to be able to use that inside a project management environment. So we see key coins becoming a physical trading item and currency to be used in a projectized environment, and then eventually become an engine to funding these projects through external funders, through the funding of these key coins. And eventually we'll get to the point where we will do an ICO to be able to bring in a broader audience of players in terms of running with a cryptocurrency that actually can only escalate and is based on a solid organizational structure of companies. So it's very exciting times. We will be releasing the first game boards over the next 2 weeks as soon as we get the algorithms resolved, and users will be able to log in and start operating in that environment. So are there any questions around the game board at the moment? Any comments from our esteemed panel audience?
From my side, Steve, just it's very exciting for us. I know it's been coming a long way, and this is something that the guys are really looking forward to. I know internally on our mentor program, also with mentors, mentees, we're discussing it, which is really, really exciting. So yes, the guys are bought in.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is I've had multiple discussions with various clients who are looking at investing heavily into the Key360 cryptocurrency as a means to energize the organizations, as a means to use the cryptocurrency as an incentive tool to their own users. So as they create coins, the companies can actually buy those coins back from their own users. So it creates a whole sub-economy inside an organization where a portion of the incentives and the bonus structure can be fed directly into operational engine of the organization. So it's a whole new dynamic. And as we've had these discussions with various parties, we've discovered that users very quickly become possessive on their key points, and it drives up the value of those key points. You'll see we've already embedded a coin exchange inside KEY360. Now, we're not a financial institution, so that coin exchange is effectively the swap of coins. The financial transactions currently happen outside of KEY360, but very soon we will be able to process those transactions inside KEY360 and then inside typical exchanges like Luna and others as we go forward. So very exciting times for cryptocurrency. Any more questions on that topic?
Stephen, hi, Diesel here. Just also wanted to add on what you mentioned. I've just from my own perspective, from my own experience, I've noticed how people get like a little bit of friendly competition and competitiveness in terms of the key coins, you know, which just again drives that, you know, sort of behavior modification, you know, between employees and between team members.
Exactly. Yeah, it's as if even with the ranking, which is important, but also the dopamine release of knowing that as you're doing your day job, you're actually creating this game on the side. So the gamification angle of it cannot be underestimated, especially in terms of the new generations that are coming through and working in corporate positions and actually want this instant gratification type environment where they can create wealth while they're doing their jobs. And it sits pretty much on the side of what they're doing in their day job. So I agree. I've seen the same thing with that that natural competition starts coming through inside an organization.
I believe, Stephen, also from my side, something that I expect is, of course, not just adoption, but also retention, because of the fact that the longer you work on this, the more transactions you'll have. And of course, the more transactions that will translate into key points. So yes, I think this is something that in the future will actually sustain itself as well.
Yeah. Right. And from a job creation perspective, if we look at let's call it a less wealthy demographic of the global population, people can get into KEY360 very easily and do the transactions and do the work that senior people are doing and grow their wealth just by doing the same job, because they're operating on a level playing field provided to them by the KEY360 platform. So yeah, I think getting investors involved is the next step for us in terms of making sure that the KEY360 and the key coin environment is a vibrant but also robust financial engine to actually drive us into the next 10 years of development. So it's interesting times. And then obviously the whole AI aspect comes in, where this data becomes useful to clients. So suddenly the value proposition of running the whole organization inside a single platform really becomes valuable. Right, so that's a little bit about crypto. We will be carrying on that story next week. I'm hoping to get to the point where we actually release next week in terms of users being able to look at their own game boards for the first time. So we're gonna have a hard push over the next week to get users really inspired to get on board and get operating inside KEY360. Right, the power of landing pages. That's the next step. Now, This is a sensitive topic inside the KEY360 fraternity, mainly because landing pages can be whatever you want them to be. So when we go into the platform, one of the access areas of the platform, the primary access area of the platform is the landing page screen. Now that landing page screen can be configured 100% by our clients, by the users inside the platform. I'm going to jump into KEY360 itself and just take you on a bit of a journey around some of those landing pages. And you might recognize some of these companies. It's landing pages that we've sort of developed over time for demos for these organizations. So but the intention is just to give you a flavor of what can be designed in KEY360. So what we're looking at in front of us, and let's start with a really simple one. So the simplest format of the landing pages is a menu system combined with the graphics elements of KEY360 to allow users to access the platform in their specific methodology, in their specific position. So, so instead of using a menu system like we've got across the top, which houses all the different departments and functions in KEY360, you have the ability to build these custom landing pages. Now, the advantage of these custom landing pages is the ability to brand and build in your specific requirements in terms of methodology, in terms of ease of use. So you may have users accessing the platform that really don't know anything about KEY360. And you can use these landing pages to facilitate easy access into the platform. So very important to be able to design these and create them very easily inside a KEY360 environment. So from more formalized environments to more wild and wacky areas where we're combining different visual elements with graphic elements and then adding in buttons as we go. So you'll see this one is sort of halfway, half-baked. This environment that we did for a demo for Micron, which is a microchip company who are looking at using KEY360 across multiple geographies, multiple organizations, and then specifically coordinating design and engineering procurement capability into a single environment. So from very formal structures to more whimsical structures that we've got here for mainstream, you'll see that you can really go to town in terms of branding, in terms of look and feel. And the daunting part of this whole picture is that organizations actually have to think a little bit about what is the message that they are conveying and how are they facilitating users to get a good capability in terms of accessing the platform.
Steven?
Yes, can you still hear me?
Sorry, yes. I just want to mention from my side also what I experienced is the powerful buttons that you can actually add to link you to external entities, you know, internet links, etc., that can take you to other pages, to other sites, to other landing spots, where you can actually go and continue your work outside of this environment as well. And then, of course, that combined with the fact that you don't need to know PMBOK to know where to go, because of the fact that everything is set up in a landing page such as this, makes it just so much more powerful. Yeah.
And the design of these landing pages is literally as easy as pulling a PowerPoint view of the information and then pasting it into KEY360. So it's not as if these complex views require much input at all. It's really as simple as going into the design aspect of the platform, and you have the ability to then manipulate these views and really design around a cut and paste environment built into KEY360. So you can see even this graphic is overlaid onto a standard background inside the platform, and even the simplest user can create and design these environments for themselves, and then add specific buttons. So you'll see on this specific design, these are actually operational buttons that are functional in KEY360, and again, operating from a drag and drop environment, so that when I can click on these items, they actually take you to another page. Again, this is a bit of a whimsical design around the renewable space, in terms of demonstrating to them how and what was possible in terms of delivering KEY360 to their client base, and taking investors on a real journey in terms of what they needed, and navigational tools. So that's how easy these landing pages can be designed, but also it becomes a really important design and UI effort in terms of making sure that your users can actually access them. So we will be spending a lot more time with our implementations on these landing pages to give users that seamless experience of getting exactly what they need from KEY360 in a very easy environment. And obviously your super users will still be operating across the main menu structure across the top, and it is not necessary to use the landing pages and the dashboards unless you really need to manage them.
I think, Stephen, also, I've had this question before from clients where they asked, what should I keep in mind when I design my own landing page internally? And I feel I just want to mention at this point, it's a good idea to go have a look at your own web pages, your own landing pages, your own designs on the internet itself, because this, in essence, is actually your own internal web page that can either
an extension.
Yeah. So it's a new way of thinking about things inside your system itself as well.
Right. Exactly. That's an important comment. And these landing pages can be used as a powerful communication tool as well. So you'll see this specific one for Petronas was actually used as a communication tool. So this is the button on the right hand side, and you can see I'm clicking through these pages, which they use to present inside their own organization in terms of the distribution of people. So it's a very powerful environment to be able to create these views very easily and then stitch them together. And G, as you indicated, facilitate the process of access to the platform.
I think also like you say now, the ease of building it. John, how long did you take? I think within 2 weeks, your first 2 weeks joining us, he was building his own landing pages already. It's really so easy to learn.
And very exciting.
I mean, John was pretty slow on that. So just kidding.
It's not because of my processing, it's because of the amount of options. It's so exciting.
Okay. Now I get it.
Just I love building landing pages.
And sadly, I think it's a dramatically underutilized area of KEY360. So we don't see clients adopting this, and I think it's probably because clients are too busy to actually engage in this type of environment. So we do assist them through the implementation, but it is an area that is obviously consistently evolving inside an organization. And if you have a data analyst who's actually working on this permanently, it provides a much needed area of engagement to the organization. Obviously, these landing pages are exactly the same design and format that we use to design our dashboards. So taking this image a little bit further, the landing pages morph naturally into be able to build dashboards. So again, from a UI design perspective, this is not great in the picture itself, but does demonstrate how you can use the same design to actually accumulate information from KEY360 and provide users with a data-rich experience, giving them exactly the information that they need when they need them. And as we go higher up in the organization, we find that senior positions want to look at pictures and they're less involved in the day-to-day environment of accessing the data inside KEY360.
I believe also, Steve, we recently were talking to one of the clients about the combination of having statistics, which you usually see on a dashboard, along with your navigation that you usually find on a landing page.
Right.
So what we had is we actually ended up suggesting that for every button taking you to a specific area, when you land at that specific landing page for that area, then actually you first see the statistic, the overall roll-up or the summary or the high level outputs before you actually enter going into the registers itself, which is quite fascinating.
Yeah. And I think it really is about real estate. So we're generally working in a desktop environment. Obviously, all of these dashboards and landing pages can be ported from KEY360 directly to email and directly to a web page for normal viewing. So all of these are available as push reports if you want to use this information to feed through to a specific audience. So that's also an important aspect of KEY360, and we're going to be talking about some push reporting during the next podcast. So don't forget that it's really powerful when you start pitching this information on a regular basis to the right audience, and then making sure that they can see these pictures. So it's not just data, it's actually images telling them a story and the story of their own business. So it becomes an intriguing process. Right, any more questions on landing pages? Okay, next topic that we're gonna handle for a couple of minutes is workflow. Now, workflow is a massively a contentious topic in all organizations, essentially because it involves the crossing of borders and crossing of silos inside the organization. Silos are naturally created in an organization because of our organizational structure. So we create departments, we create disciplines, we create specific areas, as well as geographical constraints between different parts of the organization. So KEY360 facilitates the role of breaking down those different departments and those different silos. And for us, that's a critical aspect of what we do inside a KEY360 environment. So we're looking at a purchase order register here, and the important thing about KEY360 workflow is it can be configured into the platform. So every single project, every single business process can be designed in terms of your specific workflow. And that's not to be taken lightly, and can be changed on the fly as well. So the ability to use the information, design a good workflow in the process is really critical. And again, as with landing pages, we don't think that users spend enough time and organizations spend enough time to actually refine this workflow and optimize this process and make sure that everybody involved in this process is touched by the workflow. And having a fully electronic capability of workflow throughout the organization really does provide a whole new world of capabilities. And what we do find interesting is that suddenly everything is not an email anymore. Or suddenly everything is moving across to a coordinated workflow fashion. And that workflow is all pushed through to a single workfront manager. So every single one of these steps across the KEY360 is funneled through a specific workfront manager, and you'll see this orange step here, which is the current step that this specific module or process is in. Has a couple of aspects. The first aspect is it belongs to a specific user. So this aspect, this specific purchase order is sitting on my table. Another important aspect is the naming convention of the specific step. So it was sent for review. So the assumption is that I am busy with this review process. Okay. So the naming convention of each of these steps is really important because it can be an instruction, it can be a request, it can be the finish of a certain milestone. So as in this case here, Lucy France is actually signed this item, which means that's now a process which is completed, which is finished. Whereas this item here, indicating that it is sent to review, means that it's the commencement of the process. Now, both of these are very important, and you need to design the workflow according to the what we call finish and start milestones, and then design the process with which the next step actually needs to be taken. Now, in KEY360, you do have a workflow engine which indicates that we are progressing in a certain direction. And this is the suggested workflow as well as the suggested next responsible person. So the processes in KEY360 are designed so that you can actually have an indication of who do I send this workflow to? Who does this go to? What's the next step? And how do I progress it? Now, from a training perspective, this is very important. And from a user perspective, maybe not so involved in KEY360 or in the business process, they are now flagged in terms of this workflow. Looking at this number on the left-hand side, also absolutely critical in terms of the use of the workflow engine inside KEY360. Now, this is the number of days that this specific workflow has been under my name, which means effectively on my table. But electronically, what this means is that this purchase order was issued to me. Now, fortunately, this is demo data, so 1,000 days is not a good number for this item to be on your desk. So obviously, I wouldn't be working at this company if this was the case. But effectively, what we're looking at here is a number that I can dashboard throughout the organization and then make sure that we're actually targeting that number to be as low as possible and within a specific service level agreement that we have with each department and each organization. Apologies, guys, I'm going to stop for 1 minute. I've got some background noise at the moment. Give me 1 second here.
If I can quickly make use of the opportunity, Steve, what's also very powerful here in this part here is the fact that the number of days being recorded here is also being recorded into the history of this form or of this item or whatever this aspect is inside KEY360, this line item at the end of the day. So you actually have it captured permanently so that it's auditable still and can be used later on as well.
Yeah, and that's really important when we're dealing with functions that have maybe contractual implications, that have implications on the project, where we can actually see who is delaying the process and then optimize those environments, either by augmenting resources, by changing the workflow to different points, but more importantly, just highlighting that there is a workflow issue and it needs to be addressed. And each of these steps, as we indicated, are actually combined into the status history. So from an analytics perspective, we can then dive into that analytics history, and we can see what that status age was and how much time those actions that we took to produce. So we can see these numbers here, and then by applying a specific view, if you look at a condition formatting typically, and say if that cell value is greater than, let's say, 48 hours, which is 2 days, we can adjust the background color to start even visually pushing users into a specific state of urgency just by coloring KEY360 environments correctly. Okay, I think, and we're going to be talking a lot about workflow over the next couple of weeks, because again, it's one of those areas inside the organization which we seem to brush aside because we're just going through the normal motions. Whereas in fact, this information should be right front and center on every single dashboard, on every single TV screen across the organization, and should be the only measure that the CEO should be looking at from a workflow perspective. Because if we can keep the engine of the organization turning, then you won't get into the situation where we've got 1,082 days of a purchase order lying on somebody's desk. Obviously, there must be a problem somewhere. So this is beautiful data, and what this translates into, if we go back into a dashboard environment, so let's go back into our landing pages again. So now we're connecting the dots. Going back to the main page.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
are we doing questions now? We're waiting until the end. Anton had a question for you.
No, please. Questions are welcome.
All right.
Ongoing.
So Anton's question is there any way to have more than one NRP or have a backup NRP should someone be off when things are assigned to them?
Anton, we get this question very often. And to answer that question, in KEY360, there is only one NRP ever. And we use an escalation technique which is related to the way we dashboard and the way we send information out. So we use dashboards to escalate and basically assign a new NRP, because it's very dangerous, in our opinion, to have multiple NRPs on a single active. Now we are looking at, going forward, potentially splitting a workflow into different streams. At the moment, we do splitting in terms of linear splitting. So we'll have a chat about that maybe next week. Streams is a multiple branch workflow. But in KEY360 at the moment, we ensure that there is only one next responsible person, and that escalation happens through the workfront manager and through dashboarding.
Anton, just wanted to confirm that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Anton. All right,
I think also, Steve, from my end, usually when it comes to training, I refer to or start off with the RACI, so that people understand who's responsible, who's accountable for the different things. And you need a single point of entry and sort of someone to act like a hub. So that's why we need someone specific always allocated as an NRP. When we say NRP, to those who don't know, it's the next responsible person. So that person can know also that there's some expectation on, from the team's side regarding some actions to be taken. And I think also,
Eric,
It's very good to have someone taking up a leadership position from time to time regarding specific actions, and knowing that their name will be up on some dashboard at some point. It's not always a bad thing.
Okay, great. Okay, right. Anton, just to further your question in terms of the escalation. So, and connecting with the comments that Gerard made about the racing. So, the view is that that escalation in KEY360 actually happens automatically when we bridge between the next responsible person and the person accountable for that specific department. So, and that may not be a single person, it may be multiple people who are then accountable for that specific business function. Let's take that purchase order register as an example. So if we look at the next responsible person here inside the organization. So this item here is the next responsible person. And as soon as this, as soon as the status age of any of these items gets out of hand, this dashboard should immediately be assigned to the accountable person in that area. And that's why, as kind of indicated, it's very important to understand who's accountable for any one of these actions. And if any one of these transactions overruns its normal SLA, which is also built into KEY360, the standard duration, then this dashboard automatically flags with that accountable person. And I don't think we train this well enough in our clients. And I want to take note on that. Liesel, Sarah, John, very important that we build in that accountability reporting as an automatic escalation of any item that goes outside the normal process.
Certain thresholds and okay.
All right, any more questions on workflow?
Yeah, maybe
yeah.
just one question. So you mentioned now automated escalation from that dashboard or from that register. Is that then done
Yes.
through automated reports?
Correct. So typically what happens, Anton, is you can create a specific report or a layout. We're going to get to layouts in a second. So you can create this specific layout. So let's take I'm just going to go here to the status page. So there's the status age. Okay, so the status age of each of these items is captured in KEY360 and is a counting item. Right now, these are long durations because this is demo data that we've used over several years, over many years, in fact. And if I had to update a specific item here, you would see that status age revert back to 0, because effectively sent for review. Right, so let's close that. So effectively what I've done with this item is I've now sent it back to myself. Just going to remove. Right. So we can see that item just 100 days in terms of status age. Now let's assume that that's going to count, right? And other situation where that item gets above the standard duration or a of the procurement process. So let's assume that I allow myself 2 days to go through that exercise. So typically what we then do is we filter this for any item that is greater than 2 days. And I can immediately see that all of these items are now caught. Now, if there's nothing on this report, so typically this report would then go to the procurement manager every day, every second day, once a week, whatever that frequency of update is required. We would then issue that to that procurement manager. If there's nothing on this list, that means the exception list is clean and there's nothing to escalate. Whereas if there's something on this list, the procurement manager will be able to look at his email and immediately see, here's a purchase order that has gone above the SLA. Now, if the behavior modification in the organization is effective, that is the form of escalation. So the manager should react to that information. And that's typically how this information gets escalated without actually changing the focus and automatically just reassigning that thing to a different person. Does that make sense, Anton?
Yeah, perfect. No, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so let's move on swiftly. I've got an image here of the landing pages. We've all got that message. As we went through a bit of a review last week in terms of the new trends in KEY360, we will be doing it on a week-by-week basis and re-looking at this list, and then just highlighting these so that our audience can ask us specific questions around each of these areas, which are hot trends in our view, including KEY360 Green, which is the whole carbon emissions. So if there's a strong ESG requirement, we can do specific podcast sessions on ESG. KEY360 has a vast capability in terms of taking an organization and actually reducing that carbon footprint. Obviously, IoT, connecting data sources into KEY360, we're probably, over the next month or two, we'll do a physical demonstration of how IoT works inside the platform. It's quite a powerful method of getting external information into KEY360. Then from a BIM perspective, 3D models and CAD integration with all the other aspects of KEY360. We'll do some demonstrations on those. Mobility, in about 2 or 3 weeks, we'll do a full session related specifically to KEY360 mobility. So watch the space for that one. We're going to be talking a lot about crypto over the next couple of weeks. So probably in every single podcast, we'll be advancing the crypto. We want people to actually engage and address and look at the game board and start engaging. And then towards the third quarter, we're going to be talking very much about AI in terms of the way we go. Dashboarding, we'll always put dashboarding somewhere in the presentations because KEY360 is all about dashboard and all about building these groups. Now, we have the capability to do this. The question is, do the implementation teams, in combination with our clients, have the ability to build these images? Obviously, we ship with some cool stuff, but I think this is an area that both internally from an implementation perspective, as well as our client teams, really need to work on and make sure that we're addressing all of these dashboard requirements very specifically. And typically, the status management escalations, at the moment, we're looking at weekly reports. So escalating our capability to do weekly reports on all of our internal projects, but more importantly for our clients to go to report to their stakeholders on a very regular basis and a very standard basis. Okay, flashing this slide, we just want to make sure that everybody has a good understanding. So when you watch the podcast, take a moment to stop and look at all of these units that are available inside KEY360. We will be posting the revised unit list over the weekend. Any of you who are connected to KEY360 can look at through the unit list, understand what we're doing, what's moving, what's being rewritten, and the maturity level of each of these processes. But all of these are available to KEY360 to process. Okay, an interesting topic for the last couple of minutes before we head into Q&A is a word that you're going to be hearing during the podcast, and that word is Can-Pequena. Now, Can-Pequena originated from the requirement to have a methodology specifically for capital project execution. Now, this does sound a bit strange because you would think that capital projects already have a million methodologies relating to them. And what we found over the past couple of years is that all the other methodologies that apply to capital projects are not necessarily equipped to handle capital projects in their specific environments. So let's take an example. Let's take lean construction as a typical concept. Now, I'll probably get some comments on this and hopefully get some feedback on this when people see the podcast and go through this and understand that, that if we look at lean construction and lean methodologies inside a capital projects environment, in many cases, those methodologies are actually destructive to a capital project. Now, we're going to be venturing into this topic over the next couple of weeks, and we'd really like some feedback around your thoughts. But what we find is that projects that apply a hard lean structure are actually causing destructive elements inside the project, because capital projects are very, they have a strong requirement for extreme attention upfront, over-designed elements, so that we can save money later on in the construction phase. So Can-Pequena is going to venture into all of these different areas of methodologies, PM block, and all sorts of concepts around how we structure a methodology for capital projects, which actually applies using the best of lean, using the best of Prince 2, and actually applying them to an environment that we can publish and make available to our KEY360 audience, but also more importantly to a broader audience who's looking for the specific guidance as to how to do capital projects extremely well. And what we're finding in the statistics is that capital projects are generally pretty poorly executed, if we're honest with ourselves. So yes, that's the concept of Can-Pequena around digitalization, around methodology, and how to execute. We've effectively run out of time, so I want to go straight into Q&A. We're not going into data governance and model maturity during the session. I will stop this over until the next session. But the next session, we're going to look at digital maturity and how to apply digital maturity concepts to every single business process in your organization. KEY360 has its own digital maturity index. I've just listed, we've got a view here of Gartner's view and an IBM view, which are both 5-step processes. But KEY360 has an 8-step process, taking you from really based digital maturity, non-commencement of an item, ad hoc data, all the way up into transformational environment, where for each business process, if you want to take them into that transformational view, we can assist with that process. And more importantly, you can assess how far you are in this process and then design projects to take you from wherever you are to wherever your target would like it to be. So next week we'll venture into a bit of digital maturity assessments as well. Right, we're into Q&A. John, anything from your side?
Well, Stephen, I'd like to touch on slow adoption. Give me a couple of minutes on that. I just want to address it because it seems to be one of our biggest challenges, and the effect, the net effect it actually has on our customers. I don't always think we communicate it often enough. So the effect of the slow adoption is decreasing of efficiency. Slow adoption means that users are not utilizing the system to its fullest potential, and that can result in slower processing, redundant of tasks, decreased overall efficiency in operations. I mean, as the increased cost, companies invest significantly into their operations ERP system, including the cost of licensing, training, implementation costs, and slow adoption prolongs the ROI of that for the customers. We've got the data inaccuracy. If you
so John, I mean, where does slow adoption come from? I mean, let's unpack that a little bit. You know, I mean, what we find is that our clients are just too busy.
Yes, absolutely. They prioritize their work, which is second nature. So what we do is we usually plan our training and fast tracking of adoption around that, because I mean it's second nature for them to prioritize their first responsibility, right?
Right, and I mean they're too busy to actually get to the point where they've got technology to make their lives easier. So they're in this constant circle of not getting to the point where they actually improve their business processes.
Yes, absolutely. Also, there's a factor of resistance to change as well that we've picked up, Steve.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
And I mean, instead of looking at it as a factor of a fear of job loss or unfamiliar with technology or perceived as inconvenience, it actually can increase doing their work faster, having more time to increase their ability on the platform, instead of seeing it as these fears. So also in today's competitive environment, I mean, we live in a fast-paced business landscape. Companies need to be agile and responsive to stay competitive. I mean, slow adoption to the system can put a company at a disadvantage compared to a company who's already fully embraced and optimized their system and streamlined their operations.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think it really hinges on the way management sees systems, and if they're actually embedded into using that data. So we have a responsibility for making sure that those organizations get the dashboards that they want, but we start off the implementation with their data. So we go through the process of an RFI, getting their information, but then very importantly, to build that into KEY360 so that they can see their own information in KEY360, and then that adoption is much faster and operational. And obviously the workflow and the landing page is very important.
Often also, Steve, I see there's a bit of a disconnect between management and the guys on the floor, you know, actually operating the system. The quicker you can actually get into training after the initial demoing, after the initializing the whole project of implementation, the quicker you can get to training, the better, so that the guys on the floor really can see what they are up to and what's waiting for them. So that actually gets guys excited a bit earlier and get them bought in as well. I could clearly see recently between two different clients, the difference between having that and not having that. The buy-in from everyone on the floor versus the buy-in only from management. And it really just makes it more difficult.
Absolutely.
You're so right. I mean, and you make a good point. Is that we've got the view of similar clients, but implementing differently from their perspective, and the remarkable difference in take up and adoption because management reacts differently.
Yeah, and we've also noticed that when certain cases where a company prioritize their training and support, it gives them the opportunity to address the concerns about the system and actively promote its benefits and quicker adoption. I mean, as an example, with one of the companies, when they actually prioritize their training, they could give suggestions that we adopted some of the system where we can, as an example with Synergy, in order for them to actively engage us, and we made some significant changes for them, and they're super excited and getting on board.
And it was quite successful.
Yeah, but with the resistance, it has the opposite effect.
Yeah, no, we consistently need to adopt our method of implementation to actually overcome even, let's call it, poor or negligent management of those organizations. Because in fact, the reason why they're engaging with us is because those things are not in place. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we have to break that cycle of destruction inside an organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a little bit of built-in psychology in there as well, of course. Getting towards that eventual behavioral change. It's really a lot of energy that you have to initiate in the beginning, and then obviously over time it dies down a little bit, the amount of energy that you need to input. But yes, actually it's quite.
Fortunately, it becomes the new normal very quickly, and then you've got to reinvent that wheel again.
That's true.
Good point.
Steve, just there was another question from Anton's side. He's asking, when will we learn more about AI in KEY360?
Famous question. I really hope you wouldn't ask that, Anton, but yes, we're probably looking at the third quarter in 2024 to connect into especially the chat and the language AI capability inside KEY360. We have started that process, so I'll keep you updated in terms of when you can start chatting to KEY360 directly.
Thanks, Steve. I don't know, we haven't widely advertised it, but with the next generation release, maybe in our next session we can have a screenshot of just a little snippet of our next gen release, what it looks like, just to get some of the customers who's going to log in excited about. I mean, I've seen part of it, and it looks absolutely phenomenal.
If I tell you, I have to kill you, Jam. So yes, that's a good idea. We'll put a bit of an image package together to just whet the appetite of the next generation, which is probably going to be Gen 5 of KEY360, which is pretty much a whole rewrite in terms of technology base, in terms of look and feel, functionality, the way we deal with the cloud, and then obviously that also allows us to implement AI a lot easier on the data set. So yeah,
I'm gonna love it.
Definitely exciting stuff. Yeah. All right, everybody, we're out of time. Please send us all your questions. Connect with us for a demo perspective. I think we've got the QR code here. So just connect with your telephone camera and drop us a line on the KEY360 service portal, and we'll get back to you with some information and a demo and whatever you need to take your organization to the next level. Any final comments from the audience?
From our side also, thank you very much for your time and your effort. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for everyone that's joined
Thank
us.
everybody. We will see you same time, same place next Friday.
Thank you.
And for those of you who couldn't attend, we'll be meeting you online on YouTube on these sessions. So thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Anton.
Anton, did you have a last question?
Apologies, wrong button, but have a good Friday. Have a good weekend.
Liz has got her hand up. Liz, did you have a question for us?
I just wanted to confirm it's Easter weekend next Friday.
That's a good point. We will probably be posting the session in the time slot, but we will pre-record. So thanks, Liz. Yes.
Cool.
Good for the heads up.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, bye-bye.
Yes, bye-bye.